Hey guys, today I'm here with Charlie from Daily Motor, and we are going to talk about the 2020 BMW X5 and the 2021 Genesis GV80. We're going to talk about these cars and just kind of do a little comparison video today. This SUV almost makes me question, why would you buy anything else in BMW's lineup? It handles well, it drives amazingly well. The 5 Series is just boring at this point. It feels like BMW put all their R&D into this SUV and just made it the best they possibly could.
Well, it's nice following your channel. I saw you drove a 5 Series not too long ago. It's nice that you had that opportunity to get in that car first and then really see where BMW's been putting its dollars lately.
Yeah.
As enthusiasts, it's been a little tough to see BMW go down this road of abandoning their cars for the SUVs, but hey, if you do want to accentuate your life with an SUV, it's kind of nice that there's one this good, even at this price point.
Yeah. No, it's true. And you know, kind of base model for base model, this X5 and the GV80 are pretty close in price. MSRP on this is 61 grand. MSRP on this Advanced Plus trim is 65. And of course, this comes with a lot more features standard. It's pretty loaded up, and the X5 you have to pay extra for everything. But I don't know, this GV80 is just, it's interesting because the more I drove this, the more the excitement and the hype wore off.
As pretty as the GV80 looks, at the end of a few months, it's just going to be the car that's in your garage. And you got to remember that. I
think I'd rather live with the X5, if I'm being honest. Like, the more I drove this, the more time I spent on it, the more I appreciated its dynamics. The infotainment is a mess at first, and the button layout is almost a dangerous proposition. But once you get used to it and you learn it, it's actually pretty good.
It's interesting to bring that up because iDrive is a big contentious point for a lot of people, but BMW started the game with kind of complex infotainment. They stumbled, they had their toddler years, but they do it better than anybody else at this point in the game.
Yeah. And Genesis is experimenting with some new buttons and layouts and different things in this GV80, and I think it works, but it's just not as nicely fine-tuned as the X5's iDrive system.
It took me a few days to decide why I didn't like this as much as kind of the BMW, Audi, previous Genesis style rotor, and I figured it out. With that car, it's one finger position for everything. You can rotate and then click down without moving your fingers. This one requires multiple digits.
Yeah.
And it's subtle, but I feel like it's our job as auto journalists to try to enunciate why things aren't as easy to use as others. Demonstrate here. We'll go over, say I want to rotate through, I want to go to phone right here. If I'm doing it while I'm driving or something, it's fingers to rotate and then a separate finger to come down here and click.
It's not as intuitive.
No, and that sounds, for those of you watching, it's going to sound, wow, that's really pedantic, but it's true while you're driving, while you're merging lanes, anything like that. The fact that you have to use a different finger to press down, it's subtle, but it's not as easy to use as the rotor in the BMW. And little things like that are the ownership aspects of vehicles that initially you look at this and you're like, wow, it's beautiful, it's so nice to use. But after some time,
it adds up.
It adds up.
I do like the drive mode selector in this, where you can just use that without looking, whereas on the BMW, everything is clustered in one place and you have to look and physically touch something.
I like everything. I really like the HVAC controls. I appreciate there's kind of a haptic touch button to the screen on there, and it's very responsive, it's quick.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis is doing a really great job. The interior is beautiful. I'm not a huge fan of the color of this leather.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yep. But it's almost a bit faded.
A lot of people hate this steering wheel.
I don't appreciate how it's not very comfortable to hold your hands at 9 and 3.
Yeah.
It's thick, and you
it is.
Really, I'm sure
BMW's done away with their overly girthy steering wheels too. Now this feels about right. It really does feel good.
This is a coherent cabin. It's a bit overwhelming. You're right. It's not as bad as a Porsche.
Yeah. I think the design on this X5 is pretty timeless. They've done a really nice job with the front end. They haven't gone overboard with the grille. Not quite the same can be said with Genesis. They have done a strong presence here, and I think they need to set themselves apart in the market. There's a little bit of controversy on this design. Some say it looks a lot like the Bentley Bentayga. I think it looks like a Bentley Bentayga if you don't have a Bentley Bentayga next to it. And if you compare them side by side, they look nothing like each other. But in this case, I don't think it's a bad thing. All right, let's take these cars for a drive.
Let's do it.
Cool. Anyway, for my full review on this X5, check out one of my previous videos on the channel. But this is just kind of it's a nice opportunity to drive both cars back to back and see what they are like one after the other. Because this X5 really is kind of the class leader in this segment. And I think it's kind of the best luxury SUV that you could buy. It's interesting because the Genesis is definitely the value proposition between these two SUVs. But when you're getting a luxury SUV, are you really shopping for value? And that's just a question that kind of is interesting to talk about, because above 60 grand, 65 grand, is the difference between 60 and 80 really that much? I would argue not, especially for the people who are buying these cars. The Genesis does look good on the road though. He's definitely pulling on us. But all said and done, they're basically even. I don't think people are going to be out drag racing their GV80s and X5s at stoplights. Dynamically, I do prefer this X5. BMW has really dialed this SUV in incredibly well. It drives so nice, it's comfortable, but it's also a nice performance vehicle. It doesn't quite have the dynamics of that last 8 or 9 tenths of, let's say, their sedans, like the M340i, for example. But it's an SUV. It doesn't necessarily need to. It still rotates. It still drives really well at the limit. Yeah, all said and done, they're pretty even. Even with the X5's launch control, the GV80 was pulling away just a tad. So the question is the GV80 worth it? Well, I think it's probably worth it in the top prestige trim, because that is so opulent, it's so luxurious, and there's so many things in that trim that are just special and make you feel like you're in a special car, that would probably be worth it at about $70,000. This X5, even at 83 grand, it's a good buy. This thing it's fantastic. It's probably one of the best, if not the best, SUV in its class. And yeah, you're going to pay to play, but all things said and done, that's how it is with BMWs. The other advantage to the BMW is you get the brand name. Nobody really quite knows what a Genesis is just yet, and that's okay. I think it's probably the smarter luxury buy in the segment. But again, if you really wanted to be smart with your money, you'd buy a used car for 20 grand and forget this $80,000 business. All right, let's hop into the Genesis and see what that's like to drive. Got to remember the start button's down there. All right, guys, we are back in the GV80. Definitely some big, obvious design differences. But I wouldn't really be upset to own either car. They're both solid options in my mind. This GV80 is very smooth. And I will say occasionally I had a rough start in the X5 every now and then right off the line. Kind of a strange thing to say, but yeah, this GV80 is definitely just a little bit quicker with its 375 horsepower than the X5 is. But the X5 is more fun to drive, and it handles quite a bit better in my opinion. I think there's probably a little bit more isolation and less wind and road noise in the BMW. Guess we'll try this one more time here. With a little brake boosted launch, you can feel the Genesis has giving you a little bit harsher shift between gears. It knows that that was a performance start, which is kind of cool, even though there were no drive modes set for that. Honestly, if I were to sum these two SUVs up, picking between the two would just be a matter of personal preference. I think price, even though it does matter, is mostly irrelevant at either price point. You could probably shave some options off the BMW and get pretty close to this Genesis GV80. And you could do a little bit higher trim on this GV80 and get a little bit closer to the BMW and meet kind of in the middle. They're both going to depreciate and be worth about 12 grand someday, so I don't really think the value is really a thing between the two. If you want value, go buy a used Lexus. But if that's not the case, then I would just say go with what you like. Drive both and see how you feel about them after spending some time in them. All right, guys. Those are my thoughts. Let me know if you have any of your own in the comments. Kind of an interesting comparison between the two. Pretty cool how they were both purple. But let's hop out, get Charlie's final impressions on the two, and we'll wrap this video up. So what do you think?
It's a better car.
I think I'd prefer the BMW too.
I got in there, the materials felt just that much more crisp. Turn signal stock, the rotary knob, everything just felt like they've been doing it a little bit longer.
Well, they have, but they're not far off.
No.
It's a really good effort from Genesis.
That thing looks the part.
It does.
Looks so good in the rearview mirror. I'm sure it looks good in front of you. This is the wow factor. And Genesis is doing exactly what they need to do at this point. Yeah. They need to have wowy vehicles. They need to be a good value brand. They need to do something different to get themselves in this marketplace. And good on them for making the go at it and doing a really great job.
This looks like a much more expensive car than it is. And this is just an X5 that everyone knows is about, you know.
You'll turn about two heads in this
the
whole time you own it. This, people are going to be asking you, what is it? Who makes it? Where does it come from? How much does it cost? They don't even know what Genesis is. So
yeah, it's true.
It's super good job on Genesis, but they got a long way to go still. Not in terms of making a good product, but in terms of being a name house brand that is selling cars at the level that BMW is.
And that's kind of what it's all about at this level too, is you want to buy a badge, and BMW is that badge. And you know, if you want people to kind of mistake your car for a Bentley with the flying, you know, the winged logo, the GV80 is a really good car though on its own. I was very impressed with it this week. I don't think you could go wrong with either option.
No.
But really it comes down to personal preference and you know, if brand name loyalty really means anything to you. So
you raise a good point. I think as auto journalists who get to drive a lot of cars, who kind of appreciate a little more eccentric type vehicles, we appreciate a newcomer, something fresh, different, and a bold take. But there are a lot of people who the name BMW will mean a lot more to them than any newcomer.
Sure, they've grown up, they've wanted a BMW X5 for years. To them, that's kind of the symbol that they've made it in life.
Yep.
This doesn't have soft closers. I think the Prestige GV80 would feel so much more special than this one.
I agree. It's got some more of those wow features. It would have been cool to get one of those.
And we will. I'm sure we'll get one in soon here. I like this feature. This is pretty cool. To open the tailgate.
So it's the type of vehicles you really have to drive back to back to notice the subtle differences.
Mm-hmm.
I think there will be some people watching surprised because a lot of outlets have thrown a lot toward the GV80 weight.
This is a little bit overhyped.
A little bit.
But it's actually very good for being a new thing.
Yeah.
So.
But don't forget about the X5, and all we need now is a Porsche Cayenne.
I know. Yeah, I think this or the Cayenne would be what's really the best in class, because the Audi just doesn't really do it for me anymore.
Yep. Another thing to consider, the powertrain breadth on the X5 is incredible. The fact that you could step all the way up and get the X5M and just be pushing 600 horse, bonkers performance. You can't do that with this. You can get a 2-liter.
Yeah.
If anyone wants that.
That's right.
But until we start seeing diesel powertrains, until we see maybe the 5.0 put in this, that's another weak point in the Genesis GV80 lineup.
Yep. Well, I think you'll be able to get the V8 in this eventually. This has a V8. It's fantastic. It's
So
another 15 grand over the MSRP of this, but still 75 for a V8 in your X5. You'll get 12 miles to the gallon, whereas this you'll get like 23. But that's okay.
I should point that out as well. This gets much worse fuel economy.
Oh, okay.
22 on the highway versus 28. And that's not even just that's our test, that's EPA. I don't know what you noticed driving him around, but I was around 20 mixed driving in that gets in the mid-20s.
Yeah, check out Charlie's fuel economy tests on his channel. He does a really good job with those. Yeah.
And this, I mean, BMW powertrains are so good. They're efficient, they're smooth.
Efficient dynamics.
They really
Yeah.
are. So, no, both great options, but little edge to the X5. They've been here, they know how to win. I
think so. Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Go check out Charlie's channel at Daily Motor, if anything, just because he wore a purple sweater today.
No, I'm repping. It's a theme.
Purple, what is it?
Purple gang.
Stradman, purple, hashtag purple gang. Yeah, we've got that here in Detroit too, but with luxury SUVs.
Man, this is a subtle purple. I don't know if your viewers are going to be able to tell in this lighting.
I'll have to bump up the saturation and post.
Yeah. Give them a pan shot that you took earlier this week.
Here's a neutral gray, and there's the purple. There we go. You can kind of compare.
That's what $2,000 does for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.